is a pattern where ICE is breaking the law. We have the detention of a U.S. citizen who has been detained by immigration officials. We have ICE here that has also blamed and arrested U.S. citizens for being simply suspected of being an immigrant, largely because of their appearance. In January, a Chicago-based U.S.-born citizen, Julio Noriega, was arrested by ICE and held in custody for over 10 hours. In April, a Florida Highway Patrol officer pulled over Juan Carlos Lopez Gomez, a United States-born citizen, and arrested him on suspicion of being in the country illegally. He had his real ID, his social security card, his mother presented his birth certificate, and they still didn't let him go.
A House hearing on immigration enforcement took a dramatic turn when Representative Alexandria Ocasio Cortez confronted sanctuary state governors with a stark accusation. She said federal immigration authorities are breaking the law, and she warned that the consequences are already reaching far beyond undocumented immigrants. As the hearing opened, Ocasio Cortez acknowledged the tense atmosphere in the room and thanked the governors for appearing. She also criticized the tone of the questioning they had faced, describing it as political intimidation rather than a serious inquiry into public safety or constitutional governance. If you want clear explanations of what is really happening in Congress and why it matters, make sure to subscribe for continued coverage.
Lady,
Mr.
back.
Chairman, I would ask unanimous
Mr. Ocasio
consent.
Cortez from New York.
All right, well, that was some kind of bingo going on over there. I don't know what's going on. Anyways.
Oh, I know what's going on.
Thank you to the witnesses for coming here today. I apologize for the treatment that the four of you have been subjected to. And Governor Walz, I just have to say, I know you're getting a lot of grief from the majority here, but you know, we are talking about individuals who have cheered on an individual who issued a Nazi salute from behind the presidential seal of the United States of America, who have cheered on the pardoning of individuals who attacked the United States Capitol and flew a Nazi flag and the flag of the Confederacy, traitors to the United States, sworn enemies of the United States of America, through the capital of this nation. And now they want to act offended because someone has the courage to say, if it walks like a duck and it talks like a duck, maybe it's a duck. So I want to thank you for not wavering to their bullying, which is unconscionable and sad to see. So I just wanted to let you know that, Governor. Thank you.
Thank you, Congresswoman.
To the three of you, Governor Walz, Governor Pritzker, and Governor Hochul, you three have each sworn an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States of America, correct? I'll start with you.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I have.
And I imagine that also includes the Fourth and Fifth Amendment protections for due process and the rule of law.
It does.
Sure does.
Yes.
And that means protecting your people in your states, U.S. citizens and every individual, because that is what makes America great, that we are a land of the free and of rule of law, to protect them from infringements of their civil liberties, correct? Now, what we are seeing is a pattern where ICE is breaking the law. We have the detention of a U.S. citizen who has been detained by immigration officials. We have ICE here that has also blamed and arrested U.S. citizens for being simply suspected of being an immigrant, largely because of their appearance. In January, a Chicago-based U.S.-born citizen, Julio Noriega, was arrested by ICE and held in custody for over 10 hours. In April, a Florida Highway Patrol officer pulled over Juan Carlos Lopez Gomez, a United States-born citizen, and arrested him on suspicion of being in the country illegally. He had his real ID, his social security card, his mother presented his birth certificate, and they still didn't let him go. In May, U.S. citizen Leonardo Garcia Venegas was filming an ICE raid. He was arrested by ICE. In May, a veteran and U.S. citizen who is Puerto Rican, was detained during an ICE raid at his workplace in New York City. That's called a paper bag test. And your job, Governor Hochul, is to protect people from that kind of infringement, correct?
Yes.
Because all of us must adhere to the law, and no one is above it. So if a U.S. citizen tries to break the law, or if an ICE officer tries to break the law, your job is to uphold the law, correct?
We absolutely uphold the laws of the United States Constitution and the Constitution of the state of New York.
And sanctuary states are about U.S. citizens as well having sanctuary against the attacks on our constitutional rights from illegal search and seizure. There is nothing preventing ICE from issuing a warrant and you having complete compliance with their request. Correct, Governor Hochul?
We comply in cases where there's been criminal activity alleged. Yes, we always do. But we're not involved in civil immigration enforcement because our state police that I control have to deal with other crimes that they're solving.
And apologies, I just have 10 seconds left. But when they say illegal versus legal immigration, they are trying to end legal status in the United States as well. Correct, Governor Pritzker, with the end of TPS and making people undocumented by removing legal status, ending legal status, and then having the audacity to call them illegal when they were here documented, correct?
Taking students' visas away from people, taking their legal right to be in the United States away from them when they've been granted maybe years earlier to stay.
So I don't want to hear about how this is about illegal versus legal immigration. They are attacking legal status and removing legal status. The Republican majority is anti-legal immigration in the United States. And I want to make that very
Ocasio Cortez directed her remarks particularly toward Governors Tim Walz, J.B. Pritzker, and Kathy Hochul, emphasizing that each of them swore an oath to uphold the United States Constitution. She reminded the room that this oath includes protecting Fourth and Fifth Amendment rights, due process, equal protection under the law, and freedom from unlawful detention. According to Ocasio-Cortez, these protections apply to everyone in the United States, not only citizens, and certainly not only people who look or sound a certain way. She then laid out what she described as a disturbing pattern. Ocasio-Cortez said Immigration and Customs Enforcement has repeatedly detained or arrested U.S. citizens, sometimes for hours, based largely on suspicion, appearance, or proximity to enforcement actions. She cited multiple cases to illustrate the point. In Chicago, a U.S.-born citizen was detained by ICE for more than 10 hours despite having legal status. In Florida, another U.S. citizen was arrested during a traffic stop on suspicion of being undocumented, even after presenting valid identification, a Social Security card, and a birth certificate. In another case, a U.S. citizen was arrested for filming an ICE raid, an action protected by the First Amendment. She also referenced a Puerto Rican veteran who was detained during a workplace raid in New York City despite being a U.S. citizen by birth. Ocasio-Cortez argued that these incidents are not isolated mistakes, but evidence of systemic violations of civil liberties. She described the practice as a modern version of a paper bag test, where people are treated as suspects because of how they look rather than what the law says. If this kind of accountability matters to you, subscribe so you do not miss future reporting. Turning to Governor Hochul, Ocasio-Cortez pressed the central question: is it the responsibility of a governor to protect people in their state, including U.S. citizens, from unconstitutional search, seizure, and detention, even when those actions are carried out by federal agents? Hochul responded clearly that no one is above the law and that the state has a duty to uphold both the U.S. Constitution and the New York State Constitution. This exchange helped clarify a key misunderstanding about sanctuary laws. Ocasio Cortez explained that sanctuary policies do not block federal enforcement. Instead, they require federal agents to follow the law. ICE can request cooperation if it presents a valid judicial warrant. What sanctuary states refuse to do is participate in civil immigration enforcement without due process, especially when it diverts state resources away from addressing violent crime and public safety. With time running short, Ocasio Cortez broadened the argument. She said the debate is often framed as illegal versus legal immigration, but she argued that this framing is misleading. She pointed out that federal actions have increasingly targeted people who are lawfully present in the United States by stripping them of legal status. She referenced the termination of temporary protected status, the revocation of student visas, and the retroactive cancellation of legal permissions that had been granted years earlier. According to Ocasio-Cortez, people who were once documented are being pushed into undocumented status and then blamed for it. She said this shows the issue is not about enforcing the law, but about narrowing who is allowed to belong. Her conclusion was blunt. Sanctuary policies exist to protect constitutional rights, including the rights of U.S. citizens, and to prevent abuses of power. She argued that when federal agencies violate the law, states have not only the right, but the obligation to refuse participation in those violations. This hearing did more than expose a political divide. It raised urgent questions about civil liberties, federal power, and who is protected under the Constitution. If you want ongoing, in-depth coverage that explains these debates clearly and connects them to real-world consequences, be sure to subscribe.